I recently felt very overwhelmed as a creator. I constantly tried to please others, choosing between different languages and audience needs. And to be honest, I haven't made money from being a creator in a very long time. But the worst thing that I could have done being overwhelmed was to stay on social media, because social media plays a really funny trick on us. When we feel like we're not doing enough or we're not doing the right thing, social media is there to reinforce those negative thoughts by showing you people who are doing it and apparently are succeeding. At least that's what we're seeing. I started feeling guilty and as if I was a failure because I wasn't keeping up with everybody else. I even thought about quitting social media for good. But instead of doing that, I decided to just take a step backwards and reevaluate my life. I am still trying to figure it out where it is that I'm going with my vision as a creator. But I think just as important as knowing where you're going, it is also knowing where you don't want to go. At least you can prevent yourself from taking actions or making decisions that later on you're going to regret. But having this anti-vision is also good to create your vision. When you know that you don't want to be a quitter, then you can say, well, my vision just has to be to follow through on my projects, on my dreams, my goals. That is how I can prevent that anti-vision. So I started doing this more often and just putting down all my thoughts and my feelings on paper. And I realized that a lot of the pressure that I was putting on myself was me putting on myself. It wasn't anyone out there telling me that I was doing something wrong or that I was not doing enough. It was me telling myself that. I was the one that was comparing myself to others. I was sabotaging myself by telling me that I wasn't doing enough or that I wasn't good enough. But you have to understand that I was sold this idea of being a girl boss, and I was used to doing and pleasing others and creating things because that is what I thought I had to do. And one day in my journal entries, I just asked myself, what if I stopped doing and I just showed up as myself and I started being myself and sharing my experiences and sharing my stories and just being me instead of focusing on algorithms and partnerships and things like that. So I wrote down 3 goals. I wanted to be my authentic self. I wanted to be respectful of my time and my goals. And I also wanted to just ditch this mindset of hustle culture, girl boss, do. I was ready. I am so ready for this. So in order to work on these 3 things, I picked up a book called Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. And I have to be honest, it changed my perspective. I am honestly still thinking about things that I've read in the book. I always thought of productivity as being super busy, moving around, having a crazy schedule. And in this book, I've learned that productivity is when you actually produce something meaningful. So doing a ton of stuff doesn't equal being productive. But in a way, there is a social expectation of feeling burned out and giving your all, blood, sweat, and tears kind of mentality that we're sold. And we start feeling guilty when we see people waking up at 5 and we're not waking up at 5, and then automatically we think of ourselves as failures. And because that person is waking up at 5, it does not mean that they're doing something good for humanity. And waking up at a later time doesn't diminish how much you can still do during that day. But dealing with these social expectations is really hard. And in the book, I really learned about being more intentional in what I did with my life. But it's a constant internal conflict when you have to deal with society's expectations, yet you are also trying to create a meaningful and intentional life. To demonstrate how we can accomplish more without feeling burned out, the book is divided into 3 main lessons. The first lesson is do fewer things. And I don't know about you, but I am guilty of having a list of priorities and then not getting to everything and using the excuse that I don't have enough time. Deep down, I know that if only I sacrifice some things that are not as important, I could be doing what I was supposed to be doing. And that is what the first lesson is all about. When you have priorities, you can focus on doing the things that will get you closer to your goals, as opposed to when you don't have priorities, you start a million different projects and you never finish anything. When you become more rigid about how you spend your time and energy, then you can spend more time and energy doing the things that matter to you. There's a famous quote from Warren Buffett where he says, the difference between people who are successful and people who are really successful is that the people who are really successful, they know how to say no. And this means making the sacrifices that are necessary. Although a project sounds super interesting and super fun, maybe you don't have the bandwidth, or you have to question, is this project actually going to get me closer to where I'm going, to what I want for myself? Or will it be just a waste of time? The second lesson in the book is to work at a natural pace. I have this constant need to do the things right, to do the things perfectly, and own up to the expectations that other people have of me. And when I don't, I feel like a huge failure. When we feel like we need to fulfill the expectations that other people have of us, it makes us say yes to everything. And when we say yes to everything, we don't have time to do anything right. I have learned through this book that as a creative person, I need time. I need time to assimilate how my life experiences can be valuable to other people. Taking a mental break, allowing yourself to feel bored, go out into the world with only a piece of paper and a pen, those things can do so much more for your brain than scrolling on social media for hours on end. In this digital world, it is critical that we cultivate our cognitive capacity to solve problems without running to the internet all the time. When we take the time and we solve problems by ourselves, we actually learn things. And when we learn things, we create memory. And the more we do that, the more we exercise this knowledge, the more likely we will retrieve this memory when we're out in the world and we run into a similar problem. But in order to do this, you need time. You need to be able to sit down and not think about other things. And the second lesson is really about finding that balance of living in a digital world, yet allowing yourself to have the time you need so you can grow and you can learn and you can develop yourself to the best version that you could be without constantly feeling burnt out or overwhelmed. The third and final lesson in the book is to obsess over quality. And this chapter was great. It made me realize that whatever it is that I do in my life, once I put my name on it, I need to be proud of it. I need to feel like, yes, I put my heart into that. And when someone finds it, they will see that. We have this saying when food is really good that the secret ingredient was put in. And the secret ingredient is love. And that is what we should be cultivating in the things that we do. We shouldn't be doing things just because the algorithm will favor us, because we're killing ourselves to do this thing. But we should actually be mindful. Am I actually putting love into what I'm doing? Do I actually feel excited about it? Do I think that this is something that when someone finds, they will gain value from it? It just completely changed my perspective, and it made me question every piece of content I have made since reading this book, because I want it to be something that is elaborate and rich, and not just something that is for the algorithm. That is not who I'm creating content for. I want this content for the people that want to become better, that want to overcome life situations, that really have goals and desires and just don't know how to get there. I want to help these people, not create for numbers. And when the author says to obsess over quality, he's not saying that you should become a perfectionist and not finish the work that you do because it's never good enough. But instead, you should actually do your best within the time frame that you have to complete that. At the end of the book, Cal Newport says this: ultimately, what matters is where you end up, not the speed in which you get there or the people you impress along the way. This quote was really the cherry on top for me, because it really demonstrated that you have to find joy along the journey. And that is what productivity should be all about. It's about cultivating your creativity, improving your focus, and enhancing your overall well-being, instead of just get things done for the sake of getting them done. Since finishing this book, I have continued to journal. I have eliminated a lot of unnecessary tasks. I've been less on my phone and on social media, and I've been more committed to my career and creating meaningful content. I feel like my goals are more clear to me now, and I can easily assess whether a task or an activity or a project is actually going to support my goals or not. I also don't feel as guilty. I still feel a little bit, but not as much, about not doing what other people are doing. And I'm just trying to keep my eyes focused on my lane and not allowing myself to be distracted by what everybody else is doing. I hope that this video has inspired you to be more mindful of where and how you spend your time and energy. And I also made this video here where I shared my experience having to choose between doing something I loved versus doing something that made me money. So I hope that you watch this video next. And as always, thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you next time.